And happy Tuesday, everybody. It is the Football 360 show here, coming at you live on YouTube and X. And of course, you can always catch all things Football 360 on football360show.com, as well as on Apple, Spotify. Check us out on Twitter and the Gram. Matt Bierman here is joining me. What's up, Matt?
I'm here.
I'm here too. I can't see my screen, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that
I see you.
You see me? Okay. I'm assuming that our socials are up there as usual.
They are.
Joe is the pro on everything. And catch us on Instagram at JPRockScoutU and X, JPRockMO, as well as you.
I'm on Elite Football on X and Elite Football Academy on Instagram.
Gotcha. So, a beautiful Tuesday. Beautiful Saturday we just had.
Yeah.
At the final Football 360, final Football 360, the final KC
Varsity, yeah,
combine happened, and man, it was loaded with talent.
Yes,
couldn't have asked
older talent, younger talent. It was a nice group,
just full of college prospects. Guys were getting offers there. Guys have been getting offers since. They're future D1 guys. I mean, the young guys were just crazy good.
Yeah.
And of course, you and the elite coaches, and special thanks to more for bringing that here. And then you and appreciate it, Joe. Best in the business, Joe.
You're live, huh?
Yep, I'm live now.
Perfect.
I got things going on. So yeah, you guys out there, man, did a great job. Everybody was happy. Players were happy. Coaches were happy. The college coaches were ecstatic.
Yep.
I mean,
anytime you get to see guys compete and they don't have to work it and they can just observe and watch and talk to guys on the side, I think it makes it a win-win for everybody.
Man, they were furiously just checking guys out, writing down names, getting guys information, and of course, we tell the players, go out and talk to the coach.
Yeah,
because a lot of these guys think they're gonna it's almost like as if they're fans. They don't want to interrupt their.
Yeah, and the coaches wear their shirts and hats that represent where they're from, so it's pretty obvious who they are.
Right, that they do that for a reason.
Yeah.
They want you to come up and say hello.
Yeah, they're representing their program and their job and who they work for and who they're looking to bring players to. So again, kind of knowing where you fit in might be a good start, right? Like knowing kind of what your size, height, weight, parameters, if you and your level of play, I think is the most important, right?
And your testing numbers. And a thing that we were running across were guys trying to cherry pick what they were going to compete in, right? How they were going to test.
It's a bad look.
Very bad look.
It's really bad luck.
You're not helping yourself. You're actually hurting yourself. And luckily, a couple guys were able to talk and say, "Oh, I'm not going to run a 40." Well, then, what are you doing? Because you think they just.
But you can run routes,
right? Or you're just gonna throw.
No,
they want to know what kind of athleticism you have as a quarterback, because as you well know, being a quarterback guru that you are, right?
Yeah,
they have certain parameters they're looking for, and if you don't meet it,
well, yeah. And here's the thing: now more than ever, they're looking for guys that can run. I mean, speed is a factor.
Absolutely,
right? And if you're able to run at a appropriate speed, right, or appropriate time, it just kind of shows that you just because you're fast doesn't mean you're going to be a good quarterback. Just because you can throw doesn't mean you're a good quarterback. But mating those two together, right, it makes it a big deal.
Yeah,
makes a big deal. It's part of the equation. And unfortunately, when you're looking for guys that are competitors and they don't compete in that, it's kind of a red flag.
It is a red flag, and luckily, there were guys there who were all of that.
But it's bad. Typically, it is bad advice from a handler or someone who does not know how this works, giving them really bad advice. It's the track guy who times kids on the track or times kids, wherever, and then, says, oh, yeah, he runs this, all that they're not timing you right. Well, yeah, they're running on turf. Major difference between a track surface and track spikes and spikes on a turf field.
Huge.
It has give, right? But we play football games on football fields, and that's why college coaches want them timed on football fields.
Correct.
Yes, they will take into account your 100-meter, but at the end of the day, that is a fleeting stat for the vast majority of guys getting recruited.
Right.
Vast majority.
Oh yeah.
Some it's important for, depending on the position, but not every kid runs track, right? And not every guy is, sub 11,
right. And
100 meter.
if there's a question or they're uncertain, you run that 10-800 meter.
Yeah.
Boom, that might put you over the top, but that's not going to be the sole factor.
Absolutely not.
Right. And there's been a lot of fast guys who could not play with football. And back in the day, they would take fast guys. A guy that comes to mind, and I can't remember exactly what era, but there was a guy named Tiger Boyd out of either Cape or Sykeston down in the Boot Heel. Either one of those. I think it was Sykeston. 10-400 meter guy. Never saw the field. Never saw the field at Mizzou.
Yeah, because if you cannot control your body, sprinting is a component of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But very few times are you in open field sprinting in football. Very, very rare, right? Even receivers, like they have all the GPS information and all that they monitor and practice. There's a lot of gliding in routes, right?
Mm-hmm.
You burst, glide, break, glide, and there's not a lot of just flat out dead ass sprinting, right?
Right.
And if you are, it's 5-8 yard pops, right? It's not 40, 50 or 100 meter pops. Like, it just doesn't work that way. I mean, yeah, if you get in the open field on a kick return or punt return, or you catch a post and it's a foot race, yeah, okay. But that is a different metric, because you're running, you're coming out of an angle, you're running. That's why running angles and curves and things like that, when you run and train, that's probably as important as learning how to run a 40, right? Because the 40, unfortunately, is what you get timed in, right? And at Casey Varsity, they were doing flying tens, which is just a calculation that gives you like what your top end miles per hour are. And the unfortunate truth is a lot of kids don't know how to run a 40. Some guys are some guys are pretty good at maintaining their speed once they build it up, right? And the other guys just aren't. And so I think it gives you a good idea of where they're at, right? And everybody's kind of in that depending on the 16 to 20 mile an hour range, like 18, 19 is kind of the
you're 20 and
up.
Group,
you get moving. 20 and up, you start moving. Yep. Right. And so the unfortunate thing though is so many kids don't do any work, right? And they focus on things that they probably don't need, that are probably slowing them down, right? Like a lot of the lifting that so many kids do is counterproductive to their speed production and power production. Lots of strength. We test so many kids on our force plates, and you can tell what they're doing in the weight room, whether it's under the supervision of their strength coach or on whatever they're doing at the gym on their own.
Mm-hmm.
There's far too many kids that are low power, high strength guys. That is not a good matrix for a football player.
No.
You do not want to be high strength and low power.
Not at all, which is why, some of the other testing metrics that they do is the shuttle, the Al cone. What I always look at is what's your vert, what's your broad jump.
That's the ones.
Right? Because
those are the two.
Because there's a very talented quarterback who had never run a 40, was scared to run the 40, right? But I saw he vertical jumped almost 37 inches, right? Broad jump, 9.8. I'm like, you're going to run a good 40. He's like, oh, I'll do it. But, right there in the 20, right? So he's a fast.
He was 22 miles per hour, I think.
He's a fast guy. No, this was a different quarterback.
Different kid.
No, you're talking about, the MVP. The fastest man was Hudson Serrano, who ran that fast, whose high school career has just been, a mixed bag of stuff. And so this year, though, he's going to get his opportunity.
He'll have a big shot.
He's the guy. And in fact, he is the guy. So stay.
And that brings up a really good subject. There's so much. Okay. And this is just kind of talking out loud about the different scenarios as you go into high school. I mean, some of it you just can't control, where you live or what like what your neighborhood school is. But the tough thing is there's a lot of programs where it's seniority based, right? Which that's kind of the old school football way.
Yeah.
Where the seniors and juniors get the primary, focus, and then the younger guys kind of wait their turn. And it's more of an experience for the team and the individuals that are on the team, the older guys in particular, kind of like heritage and tradition and the unfortunate,
politics.
The politics. The unfortunate thing is a guy like Hudson Serrano, like, he didn't play much last year at quarterback. Certainly could have.
Right.
But you're telling me that level of athlete couldn't have been playing somewhere else in the field?
Correct. Well, and I mean, that's a really bad look. You and I have known for years.
Yeah.
The talent.
He could throw the ball 70 yards and got big arm.
And the athleticism. So, I mean, when I saw him last year, when he did get on the field a little bit, I think he was wearing like number 49.
Yeah.
Right. It's like,
well, so you look at like going into high school, right? This day and age, and it sounds crazy, but like you have to be very strategic about where you send your child to high school if there's an intended line to play college football. And the reason I say that is if you're getting on the field as a senior, it's really difficult to get recruited by anybody of substance. I mean, you can, but it's going to make it harder,
especially as a quarterback, because it's the most difficult position.
You need to be on the field as a freshman, if not sophomore, right? Junior is pretty late, and then as senior is really late. So, and you're leaving a lot to chance too, because that 1 year, I mean, you want to stay healthy, right? And there's a lot to go. So if you have 3, cracks at it, that's better than having 1 crack at it. So, but the earlier in the recruiting cycle, the easier it is to get recruited, right? The more film you have. So knowing that going in, and that's where, some of the private schools have a tough sell, because they're stacked at each grade in all those positions. So, I mean, the argument can be made that you're going to be developed, that the next man up, and schools are still coming in. They kind of know who those next guys are, which it can happen, right, with the better programs. But if you're at let's say a less traveled, less visited program, and schools are not coming in, and you're caught in the politics of, hey, oh yeah, he's a senior, he has to play, right? And you're watching the team lose game after game. That's a tough pill to swallow, because you do need to get that opportunity to be scouted. And make no mistake, if you want to play college football, you have to have game film.
Yes.
If you don't have game film, you're in trouble, right? And I think that becomes a real issue. And so, in the stacked order of importance, first comes game film, right? Your highlight film just kind of is an entry point, but game film itself is the end all be all, gold standard, right? Then you have your combine metrics, height, weight, and speed, and all that stuff. Obviously, academics play into that, and then you get into the character stuff. You get into the the off field, like what if you're a good person, all that. But the reality, and then there's the live visual of them watching you, right? So there's all of those things are the combination of what's going to get you recruited or not get you recruited. And I think to be on the field and get experience when you're younger is huge, right? And so
100%.
You can't make it up. And unfortunately, a lot of kids don't think in those terms. They think in terms of, hey, where am I? It's like the junior football thing. Like me and my buddies are all going here because we're going to win, right? But you also don't want to go downgraded to a point where you're playing with a bunch of guys that are not going to enhance you at all. Like, for instance, you go to a school that's kind of struggling, and now you have to play early, and you're in a team that's horrible,
right?
And you have to play when you're a young guy. It's going to get you beat up, and it's going to get you, say you're a receiver and they don't have a quarterback.
Not going to help your development.
It's not going to help your development. So
you
got to take those things in consideration, and I don't think a lot of people do. I think a lot of them just go, hey, I'm just going to show up and play, and this is what I'm going to do.
They really don't, and all those things are important. And yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It is never too early to think about that, because by the time you're a junior, going to enter in your senior season, and there's a bunch of guys, and I know you know them too, who are like, oh, yeah, I'd like to transfer. Well, guess what? Good luck with that, because the chance of you being eligible, transferring into your senior year,
I highly advise against it.
Absolutely. And I just had, I have people that are like 20, 29 kids, right? How do I get recruited? Well, how do I get ranked? How do I get recruited? They're worried about that stuff already. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, first thing you can do, since you're a JFL guy, if nobody's seen you, you don't have film, go to a KC Varsity Combine, go to the Elite Combine. Oh, well, are there older kids there? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, will they separate me? I mean, if you're afraid to go to a KC Varsity Combine or Elite Combine as a 2029 kid that's going to be entering into ninth grade, then don't show up. But don't be surprised but you're not going to get recognized, right?
When there's kids in your grade
that are doing it
and actually doing well, right? And
exactly.
actually
Saw
standing
that.
out.
Yeah, saw that this past Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, oh well, you know, recruiters can't talk to anybody, so I'm going to wait until I'm a. That's not how this
There's
works.
Kids getting offers that are 2029 as we speak.
You know, I just had an interesting thing. I think it was a kid who was messaging me, but it was probably a parent because it seemed more like a parent who was just who knew everything. I'm like, and I was just like, you know, sent them the confirmation that 20 to 30 kids are getting offered. Well, that don't happen.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, I just proved it. But you're afraid, so you stay where you're at. Stay in your lane. Don't worry about it. But don't be surprised.
And don't complain.
Don't complain because you're not taking the necessary steps.
Right. And unfortunately, yes, there are rules that prohibit the schools from reaching out for those guys. But what people don't understand is when someone's in 7th and 8th grade and they're not enrolled in high school, they're fair game.
Bingo.
They are fair game.
Yes.
Because there's no recruiting rules. So they're not a high school age student. So,
right.
But yeah, you got to know the game. You got to understand what you're getting involved in. It doesn't mean you have all the answers. You and I do this every day. There's still things that we scratch our heads at. We're like, oh my God.
How'd that happen?
Yeah. So, but if you don't have your foot in the pool, you can't, even begin to swim. You can't just stand up there and watch and look at the water. You got to get in.
And you got to start earlier than ever because as we've said multiple times, and even at the compound on Saturday, both you and, Wayne Orr said, you're supplemental to the college recruiting game right now, right? You're not the main show like you used to be. So
a good friend of ours was telling me today, so that you're having these conversations about recruiting, and his son's got offers, and it's a variety of offers, really good offers, hell of a player. He's gonna end up being a Division I guy. So you get all these conflicting messages. Oh, we love you, this and that. And so he texts me this morning. He's like, hey, my son got an offer from this school, Division I school, and come to find out the one that he really liked and was getting great information from and lovey-dovey messages and confirmation, finds out through one of the coaches that they are now a little bit more leaning towards bringing JUCO guys in for that spot. Or excuse me, transfer portal guys.
I was going to say, wow.
Yeah.
That would feel insulted.
So they're bringing guys in, transfer portal guys.
Yeah.
They could bring JUCO guys in because they'll still have 5 years of years,
which
5
is
years
crazy.
remaining.
Yeah.
But I just think until the ink is dried, unless you're a Cantwell or a guy like that that's got money coming in and is a national level guy. If something falls through at Miami for Cantwell, he can go to any other school he wants to go to in America. Yep. So that is not the case for the vast majority of kids. So Ryder Lyons is another kid in this grade that that class, or the 2026 group that, he can kind of go to any school he wants. Top quarterback in the country. That's there's only a few of those, right, out of all the kids. So
probably about 5.
Yeah, and that's it. So, but I think you have to keep. And this is not even an indictment of the college coaches. It's the indictment of what's going on. You have to keep one eye open at all time. And you have to understand there are a lot of other forces at play that are not involved with what they're talking to you. There's a human side where they're talking to you, you're getting to know them.
Yeah.
They tell you kind of what you want to hear because they want you to like what they have, right? And they're hedging their bets.
Hey, and here's a good thing that all parents will probably understand. Realtors, car salesmen, there's a human side of that too. They want to get to know you. They want you to like what they have, what they're selling. But it is a business, right? It's always been a business. Now I don't know if dirty is good to say, but it's a more difficult business. It's a more constrained business, right? It's narrower for you. So they're only really going to love you. If you're Jackson Cantwell or one of those top 5 guys we're talking about, they're going to love you. But they're really not going to love you till you're helping them win football games on the sideline of their college. Everything else is pretty much just sales and business and, trying to negotiate and trying to
they're making you feel like you're the
themselves.
one until you're not.
Yeah. Nobody loves you.
So
except your mom and dad.
I got this text from a friend of mine the other day. Pitt, how many offers do you think Pitt has out to 2026 kids?
250.
508.
Holy cow.
West Virginia, 566.
Yeah.
Now,
Shotgun offers.
okay,
style.
now they could probably they're probably going to bring in on average 20 to 25, maybe, but most of those are going to get filled by transfer portal guys.
Right.
So let's call it 18, 15.
Yeah.
But to have that offer, I don't think it's diminished because it just shows you're in that pool of people, because 500 is out of what? You figure it out, break that up by like what, 7, 8 position groups with specialists and all the positions.
Yeah.
So you divide that out. Yeah, you're in the top 100 or top 75 in the country at your position as they see it, right, for their program. So I think getting those offers, even if they're not committable, is a good thing, right? I think, because it at least shows you that you've been evaluated and that they think you can play at that level.
Correct. The problem with that though is recruiting's fluid, right? It's always changing and it's always shuffling the deck.
Yeah.
And so you might be one of those top 75 guys that they see then, but a few months down the line, once the boards start filling up for other schools, guys that they wanted, they reshuffle the deck. They're constantly doing evaluations, and boom, here comes new guys, and you're left over here. Right.
Yeah.
So you really have to learn how to judge. And you know, we have parents and stuff want us to tell them, well, are they serious? How serious are they? You know, or wanting to know how dedicated the coaches are to them. Should we ask them? Well, you can ask them, but are you going to get the truth?
They're going to give you the answer for that day.
Correct. Or you might know because they might get offended, and that might be enough because they don't want to be pinned down. Don't pin me down. Don't, if you try, it's like a, you know, you go on a date with a girl and she's like, well, what are we now? Are we boyfriend, girlfriend? You know,
I just met you.
Right. Are we getting married?
I'm talking to 2 other people and I'm considering dating you possibly. Right.
I mean, I got a rotation.
Right. And I
That's
think
what it is.
that's the tough thing with understanding it. And I think, you know, but it goes both ways, because if you're a high enough level player, the players are doing the same stuff to them.
Yes.
Right. And I've witnessed it. I've been a part of it. I mean, with some kids that are 4 and 5 star kids, it's a nightmare for those kids because they're having communications, and then the schools are their communications are different than it is with the rest of the kids. The rest of the kids are fillers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And why is that? Because there's pressures for the 4s and 5 star guys because of the boosters.
Right.
And people paying. So I think that's a good segue. So there's a big hub in the, you know, which we were talking about last week, with Bogdan Susan, who's a lawyer in Columbia. But there's the NCAA versus House that we've talked about now for a couple of years is, you know, kind of coming to a close. And there's like a couple things that are going to happen that I think are going to be very interesting. One, there's a proposition that's going to form this new position that'll be like a CEO level position hired by the Power Four of this. I think they call it like a college sports commission or college sports something. And then that will be part of the enforcement arm. But there's a really interesting development we were just talking about right prior to this. And I think it's going to get really messy, which we've been talking about, because they are the NCAA. And I'll read a quote that I thought was really interesting because
they want to get their power back.
They're in the midst of it. And they think that they did this extraordinary thing by settling this lawsuit. They're on the hook, JP, for over $20 billion, right? And they're going to have to pay $2 billion. And so what's happening is they have this thing called NIL Go, which is proposed, and they're going to have Deloitte & Touche as this, you know, intermediary, non-biased. They're paying them. The NCAA is paying them,
right?
Or whoever this commission's paying them. The Power Four, that's going to basically say, oh yeah, that's good or that's bad, right? But this plays directly into what we talked about. It says if we go back to the external NIL that separates us from the house pool revenue share, which is the $20 million they're going to give, and back to pay for play model, then why did we even settle? Baylor's athletic director, Mack Rhodes, who is aware of the affiliation agreement, which the affiliation agreement is essentially the Power Four is putting this draft settlement agreement together for all of their members that they have to sign, and says they will abide by these rules, even if it breaks a state rule. Okay.
Lawsuit.
And so if it breaks the state rule,
Yeah.
they still have to do it. And if they don't do it, they can be kicked out of like the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, whatever. And it says, and he goes on to say, we're going to spend $20.5 million per school cap in year one. Then on top of that, you go for pay for play with collectives. Well, you bet your ass that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Because NIL was not created for the NCAA just to pay the athletes.
Mhm.
The fair market now is allowed. The broader market is now allowed to pay the athletes.
Yep.
And again, if you think you're going to step in and prevent the government from making its money and people that are workers making their money,
Yeah.
you got another thing coming. That is antitrust all day long.
Yep.
This is why they're in court. But it's comments like that show, like a guy like that he's running an athletic department that's woefully ignorant of the law
Mm-hmm.
and woefully ignorant of how the landscape is set up. It is not. They're not getting the genie back in the bottle.
Right.
You are paying kids based on name, image, and likeness. You can say it's pay for play, but the law says it's name, image, and likeness.
Yep.
So let me ask you this. Let's see if Mack Rhoades has any common sense. Does a player who's a practice squad player in the NFL garner more fair market value than a player who is a starter?
No.
No. Okay. So does a player who's a 4-star rated high school player or 5-star rated high school player garner more money than someone who's a 3rd string Division I Power 5 guy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, guess what? There's things that are going to be coming out that players are going to get paid based on those parameters.
Yeah.
That is considered pay for play, but it's also considered name, image, and likeness because that person has more cachet than the other person.
Yeah. Fair market value.
So the fact that that comment shows you, well, we're paying you $20 million.
Right.
Oh, you are? No. You were forced to do that because you were stealing from the athletes in the past, and that has been established. Like,
correct.
You guys were not paying your fair share, and now you're going to say, well, yeah, we're paying you this. This is how they got sued to begin with.
Right. No, it's almost like okay, we paid a fine, so now we're going to go back to everything being.
Oh, we can go back and keep doing
right,
what we're going to screw you
we
over
paid
even
this,
worse.
So now we're going to,
We're
now they really want to lock them down.
And here's the other thing. We can earn unlimitedly, but you get 20 million.
Right.
But no one can pay you outside of this because we need to control that 20 million and tell you that that's like someone saying, hey, JP, you have a job at XYZ. You can earn no money outside of that job.
Right. And you can't, and you can't.
That's what they're saying.
Right.
You work for GE. You have a job. You're a salesman.
Mm-hmm.
JP, if I find out that you have any extra income coming in, you can't own rental houses.
Right.
You can't have a side gig with your family or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Sell something on Etsy, whatever. right?
Right.
You can't go to garage sales and resell stuff.
Yeah,
that's illegal, man.
It is.
Oh yeah, okay, but again, that is the absurdity of who these people are and what got them into that situation to begin with. And it is shocking because I do think, fine, break away, create your own league, see if the government will give you limited antitrust abilities, and then fight the fight of what? Antitrust, and fight the fight of collective bargaining, fight the fight of all that, right? And I think what's interesting, so I don't know if I touched on it, but we were talking about it before. So state of Tennessee last week drafted a bill and signed it. The governor signed it into law where they are now in a situation where all the state schools will not abide by, they can't legally abide by that deal. So it's going to call the bluff of these guys saying, if you don't sign this, you have to. So again, this is the absurdity. There's another athletic director who's saying, no, if you don't sign this, we won't play you. Okay. But these are the vast majority of the schools we're talking about are state institutions who receive federal money.
Correct.
Right. And state money. So they are telling them, no, usurp the law. You do what we tell you to do. And then it's not, or you can't play.
Yeah.
You're telling me that's going to stand up in court? I mean,
No, it's
it is
pure
just shocking.
arrogance. Yeah.
It is ignorance. And again, if they're setting up to break away and do their own thing, fine. You can do that when it's a private entity. When you're
Mhm.
dealing with state entities and federal funds and all these things that, essentially we're helping subsidize as a greater economy
Right.
as
Especially in
taxpayers.
today's climate, that's not going to stand. I mean, it's just not going to stand.
I get so fired up about it because we've been involved in it. We see the situations where the guys couldn't transfer and lost their eligibility when they did, and these guys would hold them to these deals that were never good for the kids, but always good for them. And now they're being forced to pay. And this, you would think that like Mac Rhodes is paying, or whatever his name is paying out of his own pocket.
Right.
I'm sure his budget is destroyed and he's very upset about it. But guess what? It ain't his money.
Right.
It's his budget. It's the job that he has, but there's probably 20 athletic directors before him, and there's going to be 20 after him. So who cares?
Right.
It's not your money.
No.
It's the state and the University of Baylor's money, right? So, or I think they're private.
Yeah,
So
they're
I guess
private
it's a
school.
private school. So
Yeah.
it's Baylor's private money.
Yeah. No, that makes it all the worse.
It is
like that. So
it's fun to talk about this though, because I think we have proven to be kind of at the forefront of talking about this. And here's my prediction. They want the collectives to go away. The collectives are not going away.
No.
Rich people are involved in that, and they are not going to be told what to do.
Bingo.
That's what it boils down to.
It's going to go the exact way that we said. It's going to be privately funded, privately owned teams, that are going to make deals with the universities and subsidize the sports teams.
Yep.
And that's how it's going to be. And the NCAA can go pound sand.
Yeah, but those guys are okay if the money comes to them.
Yeah.
Who's representing the players? Who?
Nobody.
Because it's the same thing, and that's why the NFL of collective bargaining is so good, because the 32 owners remain the same, right?
Yeah.
The average player's there for 3 years. So things that they work on, it's a churn cycle for those guys. So no one has leverage.
Yeah.
Right? The top guy on each team has leverage, but those guys are getting paid anyway.
Yeah.
It's all the other guys.
Since we think that college football is going to become another professional league, do you see them becoming a union eventually?
Oh, they're going to have to.
Yeah.
If they get limited protection, like they're talking about the antitrust stuff, then that brings into collective bargaining, which then that's 50 different states across the country that, so for instance, like when I've been a part of, multiple kids we've had over the years go to the NFL, and a couple of kids have signed their contracts in my office or at my house. Right. And so, what's interesting is every state has its own laws, right, when it pertains to these contracts and like workman's comp and kind of how it shapes the pay.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's different pay levels for guys on the practice squad, but then when they activate, there's a certain pay that they would get, and then there's rules around that with the NFL and the union. But then there's also state laws that each state is a little different, right? That where they're playing, and so it's interesting because I've been privy to. I'm not a lawyer, but I've heard many of those conversations around. So every contract that gets sent to a kid, a player, the NFLPA overreads it prior. You have the agents have to send it to them, even though you're an agent and most of the time they're lawyers.
Yeah,
that guy's going through reading it, but the NFL overreads and makes sure NFLPA makes sure that it's correct, because each state does have its own little intricacies. And so, can you imagine that though? Because that's what in the NFL. There's probably the NFL is probably only in 25 states or 20, whatever the math would be, because New York and California and Florida got a bunch of the teams.
Yeah. California.
Yeah. I mean, California. I mean, so but what's going to be in Texas, right? Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see when you have college football in all 50, so not 50, I guess would be 49 states, right? Because Alaska doesn't have the Anchorage Eskimos or whatever they would be called, right?
But I'm sure there's some smalls,
but there's the whole thing is going to get out of hand, and they know it, and they're trying to. It's a desperate attempt at what is not going to end up happening. They're not going to end up being in control, which as much as they think they are. But this arbitrary, we're gonna tell you if that's fair market value. And I think like that's what the state of Tennessee preemptively is like, no, we're not gonna deal
Good
with
for them. They
this.
see us coming, and they're going
Right.
to try
Oh,
to
that
try
was
to.
and they said it they said that it happened kind of with no fanfare and someone figured it out. And
Yeah.
I'm sure they're laying in wait. And then you got these guys going, oh no, if you don't sign this. So you're telling us that you want a state institution to openly ignore the laws of the state, and
Yeah,
why?
some state representative was
Why?
really on it, big time
Yeah.
football fan.
Super smart.
Yep.
Just like you, like
Paying
Missouri, like
Yeah.
the state, was very proactive with the NIL,
Mm-hmm.
well in advance. That was the representation in the House and all those people talking with the university what's best for them. There's a vested interest. The state of Missouri and the government are one, they're intertwined, right? And so why not benefit your own state and be just like they do when they invite businesses or whatever it might be to come to our state and be proactive to get more money here.
Right.
You want to have better teams, you want to have a better game environment, you want to see your university flourish.
I'm telling you what, it's a lot more complicated to be a fan than ever before. And
I know.
just wanting to like rah and who do we recruit? Now there's all this other stuff. You have to be a little bit of a lawyer, a little bit of a business guy.
Yeah.
Understand contracts.
You know who I think is probably watching the most on this and secretly behind, probably pushing a lot of buttons that we're not hearing much about?
Who's that?
The NFL. Who stands to lose the most?
Yeah.
If and when the Power Four, if you will,
Becomes
Super Conference
league.
becomes a pro league, if
Right.
you will.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
Because
there's a law.
Yeah.
The NFL's getting sued over it. And I should have looked it up. So, how they're playing games on Thursdays and Fridays?
Mm-hmm.
There's a law. There's a broadcast law. So Fridays for high school football.
Yep.
Saturdays for college football.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday and a little bit of Monday is
NFL.
For NFL. There's a law around that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so the NFL has been sneaking some Thursdays and Fridays forever.
Yeah.
And I guess there's like they're getting called on it. The broad, I don't know if it's a law, but it's a broad FCC rule or whatever it might be. So they're getting called on it, and someone's suing them over it because they have kind of bastardized to a certain degree that they're going Thursday to Monday.
Yeah.
And they're not supposed to do that.
They're doing the little sneako.
So it's stuff like that.
That's gonna.
So,
be
but I
big.
do think so. When you hear that was kind of the master plan all along. Hey, Friday, Saturday, Sunday makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I think you get a professional league, if you will, that's kind of a rival. I mean, because the UFL, God love it, it's not a rival to the NFL.
No, not at all.
NCAA college football,
100% a rival.
Much more of a rival.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, I'm curious. I don't really pay attention to the numbers, but what are the broadcast numbers between the two? I mean, think of how huge the college football is. And like you said, nationwide as opposed to the NFL.
Right.
So I'm sure
to see how it goes. I just can't wait to see. As someone who loves college football, as someone who wants to be around it and all that, I think the business side of it has gotten so out of whack.
Yeah.
That again, you got to keep the main thing. The main thing is playing football, but they've destroyed that.
Forced you, right? They've forced you to have to pay attention to that stuff, and that's the thing that I hate about it. I mean, doing what we do, knowing what we know, seeing how the sausage is made, that has made it difficult from a fan perspective. Because you know too much stuff. So this other stuff is just like I said. Now you got to be part lawyer, part business, part guy to knowing contracts.
Well, here's the thing, JP. What do you think? What percentage of people even know this is going on though?
That's the thing. Some people are just happily oblivious to what's going on and still just want to enjoy what the product on Saturdays. But even the ones that like recruiting, it's difficult for them because it's with the portal. It's really kind of threw them for a loop because they were just happy with their high school stuff, and now they've got to pay attention to what's going on. And quite frankly, to be perfectly honest, a lot of people, even though they do follow recruiting very closely, don't really know.
So to answer your
they
question,
just go by
JP,
what they're told.
So obviously the Super Bowl destroys everything else, right?
That's a given, yeah.
So
That's
average game viewership of the NFL is about 18 million. This is 2023. College football is 4.8 million. Okay.
Mhm.
But there's way more college football games.
Right.
So the total viewership season wide for the NFL is about 200 million unique viewers. College football is 160 million.
So it's right there.
It's right there with it. So
And when they give it that push of being, another pro league, I mean, it's just gonna up it,
right.
you know.
Well, so when they concentrate it.
Yep.
Okay, so that goes back to a point we brought up earlier. In this Super League that they're talking about, one of the concerns was, and in this we've brought this up, it's like it will destroy the MAC schools and people like that get paid every year to play those teams.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about, they actually gave a figure. This is how well thought out this is. They gave a figure of what it's going to cost to buy out every one of those contracts.
Mm.
Okay. And so essentially what it would do is they've done research and they say, okay, these marquee matchups are going to yield higher, more concentrated viewership, which then ups the ad revenue, ups all that. That's why the NFL is so successful, because they've what, 16 games a weekend?
Yeah.
Max.
Mm-hmm.
So spread out over 5 days or however they do it.
Right.
But they maximize their earn and what they get because of it's a concentrated, grouping. College football is obviously more stratified, bigger, broader. But if they bring it down to 60 teams, 70 teams, you're now going to see an environment that's going to be a whole lot different and a whole lot more competitive that certainly will rival, because the storylines are just as good, right?
Oh, yeah.
And if it's a 5-year cycle with these guys, they're living on these teams just as long as the NFL guys living on their team.
Without question. And I mean, let's face it, college is the NFL's talent. It's not like the NFL can go out and grab other guys. This is their feeder thing. So if their feeder program becomes a competitor, what you gonna do?
I'm telling you, behind the scenes, there has to be a lobby
no question.
Like, hey, we don't want this. Hey, keep it NCAA. It's not broke. Just don't. Yeah.
If we see it, they definitely see it.
They probably saw it 5 years ago, 10 years ago,
without question. And there's departments within the league that just break that down. They war game what's going to happen 5, 10, 15 years from now, and what they got to do on it. But there's still going to. So the MAC schools will really be the college football, right? The MAC level
the group
schools,
of 5 and FCS will combine and that'll be college football.
Yeah. And then you'll have your lower level schools and so on and so forth. And you just
it's just, again, I just think there's so many moving parts. But the thing that infuriates me is when you start to hear these guys. I mean, I'm like laughing at it when I'm reading it. It's like they're easy. It's easy as pie to read this thing. Go, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you guys are paying $20 million now.
Mm-hmm.
Of what?
Right. The
TV rights that you're earning, that you're bringing in, and the fans that come into the stadium.
Right.
Come on, like no one's buying that.
No.
So hey, another thing I wanted to bring up to you and ask you, after a combine and camp, you and I see we have an onslaught of kids posting being at the camp, right?
Yes.
So a couple things. If you're at a camp or combine, try and get someone to film you to some degree to document what you did, because to think that everybody's sitting there watching every rep is wrong. Like that doesn't happen.
Not only that, but to think that you and I are filming them personally, that's not happening. Now there were 2 very good videographers and photographers there taking video, but that takes time. I don't know about you, but I was getting hit up as soon as I was leaving the combine. You got film of me.
Bring your girlfriend, bring your brother, bring your sister, bring your parents, film yourself.
And the video that you're seeing on social media directly after the combine, that is mom, dad, girlfriend, brother, sister, whoever that was shooting that. So, now that film's coming, like I said, but just patience on that one. But you're 100% right on that, because you can't rely. I mean, there were kids that were supposed to take pictures of their testing cards, and they didn't do that. So it's hard to, follow instructions 100%.
But it's a good idea. Tag the people that are involved in the camp, like us, and obviously the KC varsity guys, yourself, us. Tag
college coaches,
other coaches that you want to see your stuff. And I will tell you, a good sign typically is if you tag someone in it and they end up following you back.
That's a
That's
great
always
sign.
a good sign,
Yep,
right? Because I'm
always.
telling you,
Or
they
if I
don't
tag,
always.
or if I tag somebody, right?
Yeah.
If I try to promote something, and that happens all the time, and that happens after these KC varsity combines. You're
Mhm.
both in Kansas City and here in St. Louis. I'll put something out about somebody. Then you have Nebraska, Purdue, boom, boom, Wyoming. That's a great sign,
Yeah.
right? And even if because the kid will be like, well, they haven't reached out to me. Doesn't matter, right? They're laying the groundwork,
Right.
right? It's a process.
And there's so many kids at those camps. I mean, just that's what I said to the kids at the end. Like, think about all the kids that were there. Let's just call it 250, 270,
Yep.
whatever. It could have been 500. Doesn't really matter.
Right.
It could be Lindenwood, 2,000. You have to zoom out, parents and kids, and realize you're just another number,
Yep.
right? And what is going to separate you from the other guys? Because let's just say you were the top 5. Let's say the top guy in your grade at that one there.
Mm-hmm.
You have to imagine there's 100 other dudes just like you in the United States, right?
Oh yeah.
That are just like you, if not a little better, or maybe you're a little bit better, but kind of in that same realm. What are you going to do to differentiate yourself between now and that next time? Is it promotion on social media? Is it training and developing? Is it keeping your grades up? I mean, what
Yes
is
to
it
all
that
of
you're
the
going
above,
to
yeah.
do that's going to separate you? I mean, I look at, and I know as a parent, so many people, and as an athlete, so many people get dissuaded and discouraged because it's like, oh my gosh, like how do I even crack it, right?
Yeah.
And then you get your first offer. Maybe it's from a school that it might not be that sexy to you. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? But you got to start somewhere,
Right.
right? And unfortunately, the smaller schools that you used to in the past think you were better than might be your best starting point, because those guys have spots available and they are identifying talent and knowing they're going after better kids than they've ever gone after.
Without question. And you should always respect those coaches. And like was said at the combine at the end, I don't know who was saying it at the end when the coaches are talking to the players. You never know that coach who reaches out to you and wants to offer you. They're upwardly mobile, right?
100%.
So they could go from that school to a bigger school to a bigger school and remember you. They like you, they remember you, and they want to bring you along with them.
Hey, I don't know who's
So
doing it, but
you're
I
never
know.
too good for any school.
So, okay, kids, the
Mhm.
parents, what happens is you hear like people like, you're on the board. Am I on
Mhm.
your board?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, where am I?
Where am I on your board? Okay. So for instance, we may or may not have privy to some development of a said board for colleges to use.
Mhm.
Well, that college coach keeps that board, or at least in his head or whatever.
Yep.
It's portable.
Mhm.
Right. And so, like, as he's like stack ranking you and based on your attributes, right? Your football, acumen, your technique, your
Yeah.
athleticism, your football speed, your football explosiveness, all those things that they're grading you on. To think that he's going to leave and go somewhere else and not keep that board and of who he's got,
Yep.
right? The people he's spent and invested time in, that's knowledge that he has. Yeah, the other school you could argue probably paid him for that, so like they kind of own that. But this is a people thing. This isn't like you're taking the secret recipe for Coke Zero, right?
Right.
I mean, like you're taking your observations,
Right.
your expertise.
Oh, and you can just look to there's a bunch of guys that are going to play college ball in the Dakotas that are now at Washington State from the state of Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
That's the exact thing that you're talking about.
Oh, we had a quarterback that was recruited up to a Dakota school. The coach went to K-State. And he ended up at
He ended
K-State.
up there, and that's how it
This is
works.
how it works.
Yep. But luckily, I mean, the guys that you're involved with, they all know this, right? Because besides just the training part, they get an education as far as how to handle that stuff as well. It's not just
Right.
come on in, I'm going to show you how to throw the ball. I'm going to show you,
The
where your hips supposed to
conversations.
be.
There are so many shysters out. I mean, across the country, like guys that
With
like
training and with camps
with
and with
recruiting
showcases.
services.
Yes. Yeah. It's
I mean, I was thinking, I was talking to a guy actually this morning about this, but what I think is really interesting, because I've been doing this for so long, I know who a lot of the landscape of who these guys are that are coaches that are now like trainers, if you will.
Yeah.
Same guys. Let me ask you this. You want your kid going to the same guy that was too bullheaded to train when he was in high school, but now and then goes to college, doesn't do anything.
Right.
Right. And now he's a trainer.
Right.
But he didn't want to train when it was his turn.
Yeah.
But now he's the one who's the authority and mentor to help your kid.
Sounds like somebody you know.
I mean, there's 20 of them, right, across the region.
Yeah.
And it's comical, right?
Yeah.
But they talk the loudest, and people get fooled by that. I mean, I had a guy walk up to me after one of our 7-on-7s. You know, we've been at a couple of college visits, and he said, "Man, you guys are pretty connected in this thing. I never really realized that." And I'm like, "Well," he's like, "You guys don't really talk about all that much." I'm like, "Well, we're busy working. Like we're training and developing. Like we don't put a lot of that stuff out there because who does it benefit other than us? Like our kids are gaining the knowledge because we're giving it to them and we're helping them execute on the field and when they have recruiting questions, things like that. But there are guys that people are entrusting their kids' future with that literally couldn't even do it for themselves, let alone how you think they're going to do it for your kid.
Right. You hit a very important point. Who is this benefiting? Right. And so whether it's that, whether we're talking about camps and combines, right? Who are they benefiting? Elite Combine, that benefits the players. KC Varsities, that benefits the players. Your kids were walking off of that, right, with offers, right? Congratulations, Jack Hessler, on your Lindenwood offer, right? Various other kids with offers. You're going to something this time of year, and there's no college coaches, and it's not going to get you an offer. That's not benefiting you.
Yeah, but you get invited to the All-American game down in Texas,
right?
And then you get down there, you realize like it's in a goat pasture, outside of San Antonio, and you're like, "This is the All-American experience."
Yeah, everything's All-American.
Everything. I mean, again, like
that the goat stuff that's laying in the field. That's All-American.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, right.
That's as All-American as it gets. That's why, hence
if you're paying to go to an All-Star game or like an event that is like,
or even if it's free, there's a reason, right?
Yeah,
because that's for them. That's not for you.
Just so you know,
especially
you have to be pretty careful too if you're accepting free camps from people when other people are paying, right? So say it's discounted, that's different, but then someone paying like a freebie when it's a camp or showcase, things like that. You have to be very careful with that because there are recruiting violations, especially like at the college level. Like someone, if it's like an offshoot and it's off the campus, it's probably a college are involved, they're not going to get worried too much about it. But like people at Lindenwood, like there's nobody getting freebies there. And people, well, yeah, but I know the guys. Like, look, I help run it. My son, we registered him when it first opened. I saw it open up. Paid for both the sessions because you know what? That's how it works. And his name needs to be tied to a paper trail that if someone were ever to check it, he cannot receive any extra benefit from a school.
Oh yeah, that colleges can.
And colleges cannot do it. And so like if someone's telling you that, they're lying to you.
Right. You got to
right, or you got to be real careful with like who you're dealing with.
Right.
So I just, to me, it is all about motive. Why are you doing what you do, right? And
who's it going to benefit?
Who does it benefit?
Is it being done to benefit you, or is it being done to benefit whoever, the college, the outlet, the service, whatever it is, you know? And that's something that parents really need to learn to decipher from.
Yeah, a lot of them. But the joke is, and the trick is so many are new to it and they don't know and they don't figure it out till it's too late.
Correct. Which is, you hear stories from, oh yeah, we did that, and you know, we learned, you know, and that's what you know, people are banking on.
It happens in 7-on-7. It happens in camps. It happens in combines. It happens in training. Like I had a guy reach out today about one of our coaches, and it just said he just had such a great experience with them. Really liked it, and which is great.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, that coach grew up in our program, worked harder than anybody else when he was there, was a fly on the wall, was trained by some phenomenal coaches, and guess what? He's now a phenomenal coach.
Yep. That's how it works.
Okay, and I mean, okay, someone said we don't toot our own horn. I'll tell you this: we have more guys that we've trained and come through coaching in our program in the college and professional ranks than all these other programs in our region combined have guys playing college football. Like it's that many. We have that extensive of a network. The coaching tree that has spawned out of our facility is pretty extensive. We got everything from NFL GMs to scouts to front office personnel to Division I coaches, FBS, Power 4, and then all the way up and down the chain. NAIA, JUCO,
Yeah.
D2.
I mean, just a great group, and that is a testament to whether it's the elite, whether it's the St. Louis Football Coaches Association event, which we didn't even get a chance to talk about, but that was another little great
It was
event.
fun.
A lot of fun, a lot of talent that was there. KC Varsity, right? I mean, whether it was in Kansas City or here with the elite guys, the partnership with that, just phenomenal coaches. And I'm telling you, who really notices is the players and the parents. And the feedback on that, and hats off, congratulations to all the coaches that showed up this past Saturday and in Kansas City on those Saturdays. You want to talk about dedicated guys who teach people, right? Take Michael Roseibe, MRI, right? He's there. He's not just running guys he's teaching guys, right? You're teaching guys,
Yep.
right? Dom Nelson teaching everybody. Derek Edwards teaching guys, right? A lot of teaching going on there. Not just, okay, run through this drill. Okay, yep, next. Now we're going to the time spent teaching these guys.
I was doing the L cone, and that's a tough one, right? Because a lot of them don't know how to do it, right?
Right.
So, but we had it broken down enough to where we could actually talk to the kids about it as they're doing it, let them redo it, stop them, all that. But and give them tips and tricks on how to actually run the turn, all of it. Yeah. And just, so I think, again, it always boils down with anything in life. Like what is your motive? Yeah, sure. I make a living coaching. You do too. But like, I don't do it off the backs of people that I'm telling, I just like, it is not worth it. It is not worth it. Right. And I think doing the right thing and taking care of people when you're allowed to take care of them, when you have the opportunity to take care of them, is the right thing to do. And we help a lot of people in our community.
That's it.
And I tell you what, and it's what our mission is. And it's what we've been doing since day one. And I don't know any other way to do it. And I think that's the best part about it. And I think the cool thing is when someone comes into our facility that's new, like as a coach, they don't know any different because that's how we operate and that's what we do. And then they just kind of like, oh, okay. Right. And so, but I think when people start out and it's this hustle and this grind, if you will, this is not a hustle or grind. You're dealing with someone's kid.
Yeah.
Right. You're dealing with someone taking advantage of their emotions. And to me, there's no place for it. And the good news is someone long ago told me, just wait it out. They'll come and go. And you know what?
And that's what happens.
It happens all the time.
Happens all the time.
The time.
And that really is the difference maker, right? With you, with me, with Wayne Orr and the KC Varsity guys, it's helping people, right? Everything we do is of the mindset of we want to help.
Yeah.
We want to help you. And that's why I said you need to learn to differentiate who's doing it for them, who's doing it for you. You do that. That's why you also work the St. Louis Football Coaches Association. Yeah. That's why when Wayne Orr wanted to come over here with KC Varsity, he reached out to us.
Yeah, to help, right?
To help with that.
It's a
That's
community
why
thing.
You do Lindenwood. That's why Wayne Orr and KC Varsity does William Jewell. Hello. McFly.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to let everybody know about. Right. Pay attention to that sort of stuff. And that's a good way for you to know what's.
We're asking you, JP, and you're asking, we're talking to you about it, and we're telling you advice.
Yep.
Like, there's not an upsell to it.
No,
there's not an upsell. Like, it is not an upsell. Like, this is what you asked us for. This is what I would do. right? This is what my experience is, what your experience tells you. This is what you should do. But unfortunately, the number of times and you and I have given solid advice to people only to find out they let the serpent, whisper in this ear and tell them what to do.
Right.
And they end up making the 100% wrong choice.
Sounds good.
And you turn around and you're like, you were doing what? Like,
right.
I thought you were set up to do
right.
And that's the unfortunate truth. And because, but your margin for error in this has only gotten smaller. If you think it's easier to play college football today than it was 4 years ago, 3 years ago, you are sadly mistaken.
Right.
The margin for error has shrunk.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why I go back to my earlier statements about choosing wisely. If you're a 7th and 8th grade guy, choose wisely the school you're going to go to.
Yep.
Right.
Choose wisely that. Choose the sports you're going to play. Choose how far along in your high school career you're going to play those sports. Track districts, that's great and stuff. Some people had to miss things because of that, and that's fantastic. What'd you do? Are you going to win a state championship? A lot of crickets on guys who
pretty sure a kid that didn't go to track this weekend got a Division I football offer.
Sure did.
That is a life-changing situation.
Absolutely.
And again, I feel for the track side of thing, because I was talking to his coach about it. I feel for that. How the kids communicate and how they work with their coaches and how they frame their argument and what they need to do is probably the number one issue, though. The kids got to really, and the parents, that's where parents can step in and say, hey, this is the decision we're making, right? Because I have read a lot of these texts, and that's the other thing. Kids, if you have a situation where it's required that you have to have a big boy conversation, don't do it through text.
Right.
Face to face, talk to your coach, have a communication with them, come up with a plan, work together, because it's easy for both parties to misconstrue things in a text. It's easier to blow up on each other in a text, man to man, eye to eye, or if it's a female coach, man to woman, whatever it is, have that conversation. If it requires an adult to be around, have your parents be there as an advocate or as a third party that says, okay, we really don't know what to do here.
Right.
But a lot of times I see this, and I mean, we've been dealing with it forever, but the kid then gets a bad rap as he's not a team guy or this and that. And it was just poor communication.
Exactly. Because guess what? If you want to play D1 college football, your baseball coach will understand that you're going to something that's going to advance that. Right.
Yeah.
And help you to possibly get an offer. So, man, we are done. We are through. It's fastest hour football talk on the planet. Just having you all right there.
Flew by.
They just flew by.
Just flew by.
Good times as always. You can reach out to us. Appreciate all the questions and comments and stuff like that. Hopefully we address all that in the hour that we're talking. There you go. You can catch me, JP Rock MO on X, JP Rock Scout You on the gram, and Mr. Bierman can be found
on X at Elite Football and Instagram, Elite Football Academy.
Enjoy the rest of this wonderful weather before it starts raining again and gets cold. And of course, we will be back hopefully next week. Talk to you the same time, and we will see you.